Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Atkins City Council meeting for Tuesday, 13th, 2024. Time has come to begin the meeting. First item will be the Pledge of Allegiance, and we ask that you all rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome again, everyone, and we will begin with the call to order with the roll call of the members present. We have Trevor Dursky online, so ask Trevor to state your presence.
Present.
Thank you, Trevor. And Samantha Peterson.
Present.
Jim Kane.
Present.
David Fisher.
Present.
And EJ Bell.
Present.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, moving on to consider item number 2, approve the agenda for this evening. Seeking a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do we have a second on the motion?
I'll second
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll begin with the roll call vote.
Hey, Bruce,
Yes, Trevor.
I just wanted to throw out, for the council to consider, there's quite a bit on here. And I'm just feeling what other members think. I think in particular, number 5, maybe we can move to another, meeting, but we've got a lot to work through here, and some of the staffing related issues, I want to make sure we give it due time and we have, we're able to take, action and have a good discussion on. But open that up for discussion, really. Anybody else thinks it's different?
Okay, would that be a motion, motion to remove item number 5? Is that
Correct.
I guess I don't see a problem with leaving it in there. That's been on the budget for a long time. It's within their budgeting and stuff. It's something we have to have before winter, so I didn't see why it should take any kind of a time or discussion to get it in there.
Hold on, Jim. So we have a motion to remove item number 5.
I'll second it.
That'd be a basic amendment, okay?
Would our intention to be to bring this
Discussion?
back up and talk about it at the next meeting, or it is something that we budgeted for, and something that,
Getting all that work done before the first snow is a concern if we push this off very long.
I guess I'm okay with. I agree, Trevor, it's a loaded agenda and there's lots to discuss tonight. So I guess I'm okay with it as long as we can put it on a future agenda.
Well, there's a couple things I want to clarify. The snow plow capability here is really redundant. It doesn't have its own plow. And 2, 1 is, so primary being, it's a loaded agenda with a lot of, I would say, new and significant decisions on engagements we're looking at and potential direction for staffing. But also, just me personally would feel more comfortable with it, seeing some actual versus budget to see where our spend is at versus the budget rolling into the year. Obviously, we wouldn't be ready to do that. We'd only have 1 month's experience by the next meeting, but I'm willing to work with others on that.
Okay.
Any further discussion on that? That's a motion to amend remove item number 5. Any further discussion?
I guess my concern still is with the snow removal. We've been having problems with the two vehicles we got. They were both, a couple of years ago, they were both down at the same time. And having the plows from either one of them will fit on this third one, and we've almost doubled the amount of streets that we're plowing now. I'm guessing if we do have an issue and we don't have that in here, everybody in town is gonna scream as soon as we don't get the streets plowed so they can get to work. So as long as we can get that in here and get it taken care of before the first snow, I'm okay, but I've seen snows here in November that didn't melt until Easter, so we're kind of due one. We haven't had a real bad winter since '62.
Yeah, I'm okay with that as long as we agree to bring it back up and, you know, once we've got the
I don't,
information.
do we know what the time frame is on getting the modifications done, and will the truck be available if we wait a month or two? I know there's been some supply issues with some of the vehicles and stuff. Or will the dealer hold it for us? Is it available now?
No, they won't hold it for us. It's due to them in a couple of weeks, so we'll have to let this vehicle go and work with them to, source another one.
It'll have to be a different truck then, because this one won't be available to purchase.
Right.
That's what I'm afraid of. I've seen so many of these supply issues with, especially these type of trucks, your construction type and the bigger trucks there, they just haven't had them available. I know we pushed real hard to get our guys to find something that was on the lot that we could work with. So I would really like to see this move forward if we can.
So we've had discussions on this. Let's call for the vote of amendment.
Hey Bruce, can we clarify something real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
I want to confirm my understanding is correct. This is replacing a truck that doesn't have a plow mount on it. This will be adding a plow mount.
It's not replacing
I don't know if this
anything.
truck on its own increases our plowing capacity at all. It's a redundant truck for basically an existing plow perhaps. So to your point, if we had a breakdown, I hear you there, but am I wrong in that, Sandy?
No, that's correct.
It's not replacing
Okay, so-
anything though. It's going to be an additional vehicle.
But it does not have a,
But it does not have a plow. It has all of the mounting so that if either one of the plow vehicles we have now break down, the plow itself would move right over to this vehicle and give us capabilities. And in the middle of winter, when the last time we had one of these break down, we was down for a couple, 3 weeks getting it repaired. And then when both of them went down, we ended up borrowing one from the county. And we could only
That's
get
what
one
I'm just
vehicle.
thinking about. I think we've got flexibility for an outlier scenario if we were pushed to that point. I just, for my part, would feel more comfortable seeing some of the budget expenses roll through and figure out where we're at versus the actual expenses versus the budgeted expenses before we make this purchase.
Okay, in the interest of time, I think we'll go ahead with the vote since that's the topic of the motion as well. So we'll begin with a vote to remove item number 5. And that would be Samantha Peterson,
Aye, and approve the rest of the agenda.
it's to amend your motion to approve the complete agenda. So this would be an amendment to your motion, and that would remove item number 5.
Okay,
So it's just to remove item number 5.
and you asked for my vote?
Yes, your vote on removing item number 5.
Yes, I will move forward with that, and again, just with the understanding that once we have the information we're talking about and we can feel more comfortable moving forward, then we can revisit this.
Okay, Jim Kane
Nay.
and David Fisher,
Nay.
Trevor Dursky,
Aye.
and E.J. Bell.
Nay.
Okay. So the nays have it. So that means the amendment fails, which means we're back to the original motion to approve the agenda as it stands. So at this time, we can take any, we'll take a vote on the original motion, which is to approve the agenda. So with that roll call vote, we've got Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Jim Kane,
Aye.
David Fisher,
Aye.
E.J. Bell,
Aye.
Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
Motion carries. Agenda is approved as stands. All right. Item number 3, consent agenda. Consisting of approving city council minutes of July 18th, July 23rd, July 29th, and August 6th of 2024, list of bills for approval, and resolution authorizing payment of contractors' pay request number 6 for the CDBG housing program.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any comments, discussion? Okay, hearing none, the roll call vote will be Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Jim Kane,
Aye.
David Fisher,
Aye.
E.J. Bell,
Aye.
and Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to item number 4, resolution approving the upfitting of the fire department vehicle with Raycom for a total of $24,067.75. This completes the purpose of this is to complete the truck to place it in service with the fire department.
I make a motion to approve resolution uplifting of the fire department vehicle. Outfitting, I should say.
Sure. Any, just, do you have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
We have a motion, a second, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the roll call vote. Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Jim Kane,
Aye.
David Fisher,
Aye.
E.J. Bell,
Aye.
and Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we will consider item number 5, resolution approving purchase of a 2024 Chevrolet work truck for $61,463 and outfitting with safety lights, plow mount, future line truck bodies for a total purchase price of $68,210.06.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I want to paint the picture here. We did talk about this in budgeting. And when we talked about it, I know that EJ brought up some concerns about why we would purchase a pickup truck for the city when we just purchased a pickup truck less than 2 years ago. And it was 2 years old. I voiced the same concerns, and in that this document was clearly posted out there for everybody to see, for the council to see, which showed that we had a vehicle purchase for 1/3 by department. So it was $25,000 by department. And with that being said, after we voiced the concerns when it went out to public hearing, it wasn't prevalent in the public hearing that the pickup truck was on there. So I came to the conclusion that the pickup truck was taken off the budget, and I think EJ did too, if I'm not speaking for you, EJ. But
Yeah, it wasn't on there.
and I started doing a little bit more research, and what I did find is I found that the vehicle is still in the budget. But in the public hearing, it wasn't prevalent to the public to see the pickup truck out there. And you can actually go out on the Atkins website and pull up the public hearing for yourself if you'd like to. And it doesn't call it out specifically like this does on there. So I look at that as whether it was intentional or not, it doesn't make any difference, but it's misleading the public, in my opinion. I also have asked, I know for a fact, for more than that many times, at least more than 5 times, about doing a tour by department and determining what our needs are by department. The fire chief, Dan, asked me to come down to the fire building once I got on council, and he walked me around the entire facility, talking about this new pickup truck, talking about the upfitting for it and how we budgeted for it and what we were doing. And he talked to me about the equipment that he'd like to see us purchase for the compressions that automatically make the compressions for your heart when you're in cardiac arrest. So again, I knew about all that stuff and why we truly needed it, because I actually did a tour of that department, and Dan did a nice job, and I've been very supportive of what he put out there for me. But I will say, with the way I have not seen this being on the public hearing with this pickup truck, I haven't been able to evaluate what we were told was that the 2007 pickup truck was not in good enough shape to leave town, is what we got told during the meetings. And at least that's what I recall. Maybe different, but that's what I recall. I just think it's incumbent upon that department head or the people here to take me out, show me, hey, Dave, this is what we got. This is how bad it is, and this is what we need to do. And this is our equipment needs and things of that nature. And that's what I stated when we voted on the mower. I said, I need a tour. Again, I know Trevor's asked for tours of the departments. And so therefore, I am a no when it comes down to this vote.
Any further discussion?
So I'm just trying to understand, Dave, your comments about it not being in public hearing. You mean, we talked about it.
The presentation that was in the public hearing did not call out the pickup truck specifically like this did.
That document is from the public hearing.
No, it's not in the public hearing.
I don't know what you mean by that. That's the presentation I made as part of.
You made that presentation, but that document's out of it. It's not in the public hearing.
Okay.
You can get it on your phone and actually pull up the public hearing. whatever date that was, and it will show you that it doesn't call out a vehicle there.
Like the PowerPoint, was it?
The PowerPoint's on there,
With that?
but that truck is not on there.
Oh. I didn't know. I thought that was my, the PowerPoint I gave.
That was the PowerPoint you gave to us and what you told us as a council was going to be posted, and that actually changed.
Was that because it was only $25,000 on under a budget? Because we'd split this truck into the 3 different departments.
It doesn't matter, you still have as a whole on there, it's not on there. Just go look.
So it was removed in one of the versions I provided?
The final version to the public,
I don't remember.
which led me to believe that it was off the budget, and I went out and did more research, and then I went back to EJ and I told EJ that it was still on there,
So
and I think I even said something to Trevor that there was some stuff that was hidden within the public hearing that we talked about in the budget, but the budget numbers never changed.
I would like to, I don't have enough time to look at what you're talking about. So,
But as far as the funding is present.
yeah, I guess I wasn't,
But yeah, but I think that's a fact, but I'm just gonna go back to the things that continue to talk about and try to incorporate with what I say and what I do. I still think we can consider trying to build consensus for a way ahead on this. And it is true, we've been asking for tours for us as new council members, but even for existing council members to get a sense of where do we stand with the status, the maintenance of our equipment, the status of our equipment, that what's out there, what we need. It just would speak to any question mark that a council member might have in terms of do we have the right equipment? Where is it at? What do we have? And I think that's a fair question, for somebody to ask, if you're gonna ask them to buy another truck.
could we table this item then? We included it on the agenda, but could we table it and put a tour like what Dave's talking about on the calendar? I realize you've asked
You
several
know,
times.
we got
this
a
on,
motion
but-
and a second, though.
Well, I mean, I could, we learn things all the time. I'm just saying, just so we give the group the opportunity to learn from Public Works and have this tour and learn more about the equipment. I mean, I think that would be a reasonable path forward.
I think part of it is, we shouldn't have to go down this path to get to this point.
Well,
I mean, it happens all the time. It's just,
we do have a present item submitted by Sandy stating the wording item for the agenda, the background of the purchase shows the bid, the 4 bids received, the resolution, and then some package data on the vehicle itself, the new vehicle. It does mention the 2007 existing equipment.
Well, yeah,
So,
I don't know. I mean, I would caution on this interpretation that some sort of information is being suppressed. I mean, how could you say that when there's a packet of information right here in front of us all with multiple trucks considered for pricing, an explanation, I asked questions and got a follow-up with pictures of the existing truck. So, I mean, I don't want to lend credence to that idea that there was a suppression of information here. But I do want to support the idea that this council previously, to my understanding, and currently maybe doesn't have the best understanding of what equipment, and capabilities the town actually has.
Would you I think, I think that we can take steps to gain a better understanding, and a tour, like we had mentioned, would be a good way to start with that. Is that something that you're?
I guess my problem is I've got a clear understanding, but I've been here for 2.5 years now, so maybe
Yeah, I think it'd be good for us
I
to-
understand the new people coming on board haven't had that experience and knowledge and been around, so that's an issue.
I'd be happy to set those up for council.
Perfect. So can I make a motion then to table this until, or amend?
Yeah, you could do that.
With the understanding that Sandy's gonna work with Public
Well,
Works to try to get a date?
You would have an amendment to the motion. That is,
That is to,
You got a motion and a second.
right. And you can amend that motion to, a
So-
motion to approve was there,
I
so
will-
now you can make a motion to table.
yeah, I would make a motion to table and work to schedule a meeting with, and a tour to understand.
Don't we have to finish the other one though?
I don't know, why did we have to vote on?
I don't-
we were
No,
able to
it's-
look at
it's-
the-
Same way we did the
Yeah,
future
it's-
agenda.
Just want a motion, the main motion, and then you can amend that motion. So that would be your,
So I'm-
During the
I'm amending
discussion, we can
to
make a
table it.
motion. We can amend it during the discussion period. Make another motion.
you have to vote on that
Yeah, okay.
second.
So we're in the discussion now. If you want to make a motion to
So
table.
my amendment would be to table it until we have a chance to meet as a group with Public Works and gain some understanding about the equipment that we have.
So it'd be to table the,
Is the desire that the council meet all at once to do these meetings? Because they would be open meetings at that point. My preference would be to do 2 or fewer at a time.
Okay. I'm fine either way, I guess.
do we have a second to that motion to table?
I'll second.
Okay, now we can have a discussion on that motion to table, if any. Further discussion, and this is just a motion to table. Okay,
Again, I think it's important that we get a very good understanding as a council. I know Jim has all the knowledge of everything that goes on around here. I just wish I had the same knowledge that, and the information that Jim has afforded to him. And I should have that same information.
okay. All right, with that, we can have, call the vote. Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Jim Kane,
Nay.
David Fisher,
Aye.
E.J. Bell,
Aye.
Trevor Dursky,
Aye.
and motion carries. So the motion is amended to table, and now we can have a vote on the main motion, which would be now to table. Calling on that vote, Samantha Peterson,
That was
That was what we just did.
no,
I thought it was all together.
the second motion, the main motion was to approve. That was by Jim Kane, second by David Fisher. Then Samantha Peterson,
I call for a revote.
Wait, no, that doesn't make sense.
no,
You changed, the last vote changed the original motion to table the agenda item.
And that's what we just.
That's what we just, I thought I was voting
You
to
amended-
table.
Think about the first one where you amended it
Okay,
differently
so
than
we
what
just
you wanted.
voted to amend it, now we need to vote again.
Actually,
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
okay,
To
All right,
table.
now we're
That
good.
was-
All right.
that
I was
was-
like, wait a second here.
yeah, it's the same,
okay.
All right, you're good.
same way.
So it should change. It changed it, I'm gonna scratch my head.
Okay. So this motion, this vote is to table.
Aye.
Okay. Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Jim Kane,
Hey,
David Fisher,
Aye.
EJ Bell,
Aye.
Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
Motion carries to table.
Mayor, can I clarify one item? on
Yes.
So to Councilmember Fisher's point, it's true that on the Public Works presentation, PowerPoint presentation during the public hearing for the budget, it did change to say vehicle expenses $66,000 and didn't call out the vehicle specifically like a previous.
But that's not vehicle expenses for, that's normal expenses. That's not the exact, the $70,000 or whatever it was, 25,000 per vehicle or per department, which was 75,000.
Right, because each of the slides for water, wastewater, and public works are separate.
But the fire department also has in their equipment expenses is $17,000.
Because those were all in FY '24. They just got delayed because of service or supply chain.
No, I'm talking about your
They don't.
presentation.
And fire department doesn't have any vehicle expenses in FY '25. I mean, other than,
It's
like
in
you said,
there.
maintenance and those kinds of things. The 25,000 for the public works share of this vehicle were included in the $66,000 of vehicle expenses, which is on the slide. I just don't want the public to think that the vehicle was not represented on the slide presented to the public. But it is not shown as you described in an earlier draft that only the council saw.
Okay. So moving on, I do believe that Teresa Roshire is planning to join us at 7 p.m. That may be maybe Teresa popping on.
I am there. Can you hear me there?
Yes, I can. You're a bit faint, but we'll get to your item here in a few minutes.
Okay, that'd be great.
Okay. Are you under a schedule crunch or anything like that for the remainder?
No, I'm just in the car and I lost the connection there for a bit, so I'm okay now.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Moving on to item number 6, this is a resolution approving the Bankers Bank business card application for the city of Atkins. This is a credit card. We have a motion to approve that card application.
motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, why did we pick the dollar amounts that we have out there for the actual card amount?
I those are the existing card amounts with the exception of the library, which I called out in your cover sheet. The library wanted theirs raised, but the rest of them are the existing amounts. But I would know what that way to start with. I did get a question about the mayor's $10,000 credit limit, and that is his spending authority. And my comment about that is that during an emergency, you want a card to have that spending authority on it in case there's an emergency. Now, and the other thing I would call out is that the use of credit cards still requires all of the process. You still have to follow all of the, regulations, if you will, that services made,
Sure.
invoice it.
I would think that as well. I don't know that we have a policy there or not, but
And actually, it's funny, Mayor, or Councilor, I am gonna get one and put in place so that when cards are issued, that our employees who are issued those cards sign a policy that outlines the things that I mentioned in the cover sheet, include the requirement for complete receipts within a very short time period, that misuse of the cards, can lead up to termination, disciplining up to termination. And I'm working with the attorneys to get a policy like that so that we have that on file. I think that's critical. I've never seen one without that.
So the library's got 2,000. She actually had 500 before, is that right?
Correct. And we've asked all the departments, including the library, that credit cards should really be the last resort. I've talked to the director and had great conversations with her about the need. As a city entity, we should be getting most of our purchases that are to be invoiced. You ran into this in the past, we ran into this in auditing. The use of credit cards extensively causes a lot of issues because we don't have as good a receipts sometimes. Invoicing is better. We shouldn't be paying up front and before we get items, things like that. So especially for books for the library, and Pam and I worked on that most of their vendors should invoice us and we pay net 30, that's, very typical for government entities to work with vendors, that they should be invoicing us. We should not have to be using credit cards except in some, some small or, unusual items. And the state library, the state auditor, when I first got here, there was a meeting with the state auditor with the library, and they called that out repeatedly, that credit cards shouldn't be used as a, first line of purchase.
It kind of shocked me, and that's why I asked the question as well, is it shocked me that we actually had, when I first got on council, that there was actually 5 people that had credit cards within the city. And just seemed out of line for any city or any business to have credit cards. Usually they make you utilize your own credit card and then you get reimbursed for that transaction in a timely fashion as well.
That's not encouraged either in cities. So I agree. I mean, I think that's common for us, but in the public sector, we actually frown on that as well.
Yeah, as long as we got a procedure and we're following it to a T, I think that if we don't have a procedure, that gets on the agenda, next agenda.
I don't know that it needs to come to council, but I would share it with them. It's an internal policy.
I think we've kind of eliminated a lot of this issue right here since we've gone over the 2,000 people mark, because now we're going to be on an annual audit from the auditor, and any inconsistencies or irregularities will be identified on an annual basis, whereas before we didn't have that. It was supposedly 5, but there was some slippage there where we weren't audited for a considerable time, and that other towns have had issues with their credit cards, and most every one of them, it's been because they weren't audited on a regular basis, which we're getting forced to do now. So that makes me a lot more comfortable with having this out there. And the policy, I totally agree, needs to be stipulated there, but I think it's been pretty well practiced in the past.
And Councilman Patricia's point, that auditors are going to want to see the policy. I mean, that's something I would ask for.
Yeah, we have the requirement for all backup documents, so that is the auditor's request and requirement really on any purchase. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Samantha Peterson.
Aye.
Jim Kane.
Aye.
David Fisher.
Aye.
E.J. Bell. Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item number 7 on the agenda, this discussion regarding the tax increment financing proposal timeline for Stone Ridge 5th edition. And also resolution, well, we'll have the discussion first But consider also there's a resolution authorizing engagement letter with Spear Financial for tax increment financing services to follow. So, yes, Sandy, would you?
So for the discussion portion of this, I just wanted to walk the council through kind of some of the information. A couple of weeks ago, we asked Maggie Berger from Spear Financial to come and share with the council the background on how tax increment financing works, how it applies to the city of Atkins, and we asked specifically for her to address how a residential TIF like this one, and specifically this one for in the sense of 17 housing lots would be considered for and how it would work, I guess, for the community. We do have a request from the developers of Stone Ridge 5th Edition to develop 17 lots in Atkins, and they're requesting a residential TIF agreement to support the public infrastructure required for the development. That includes dirt work, paving, and utilities required to support the residential development. They have submitted a request for $656,009 in a 10-year TIF agreement. The residential development would require the city contribute a portion of the collected revenue to low and moderate income families, an LMI benefit that is required by state law in residential TIFs. Just to review quickly how a TIF would work in this case, that it's all what Maggie said that night and has told us now is that she only recommends a rebate TIF. So the city pays no money up front. The developer bears all of the risk of the development. And so the developer would, own the land, build the infrastructure, the public infrastructure, would submit actual invoices for all of that public infrastructure. So it's all of the infrastructure that the city would ultimately own. So it's the streets, it's water lines, it's sewer lines, it's everything, sidewalks, everything that eventually becomes the city of Atkins property is what is eligible for this TIF. They would put all of that infrastructure in first, make the lots developable so that they are ready for houses. And then they build the houses. And once they finish, they sell the houses. The taxes become, the valuations on those houses build as they're constructed. And then once they're built, taxes are paid. And then once those taxes are paid, we have a certification of the amount that we owe them, and we would pay them over the life of that TIF up to $656,000. Only if, one, the infrastructure costs that much. So if it's $700,000 of bills submitted, we would pay $656. If they submit $590,000 of infrastructure bills, we would pay $590,000. Only if that has been paid by taxpayers toward their taxes on those properties. As soon as that money is generated and we pay it out, the TIF would end. And even if it's prior to the number of years that it's projected today, because as we know, maybe they build the houses fast, maybe there's a housing slump and they can't sell them, so they stop building them, it takes longer. The TIF agreement stays that 10 years, whatever is at the end. If it goes faster and they're done in year 7 or 8, that's when the TIF agreement, our rebate to them ends as well. The LMI, Maggie talked a little bit about that. As that low to moderate income benefit comes in, we would essentially put it in a fund, a special reserve fund that we're not allowed to spend except on that. As she recommended, sometime between now and when there's any money of appreciable value in there, we would probably work with a group like ECOG to put into place a program that would be eligible under low and moderate income. And she talked that night about the variety of projects that could be proposed for that. So why this is on your agenda tonight is that when I met with Maggie Berger with Spear, we, just like she said that night with the council, the timeline is a little tight to ensure that we can certify a TIF by December 1st, which is required by state law. So on your council cover sheet, I proposed a tentative schedule that includes tonight for an agreement in concept to move forward with preparing the TIF agreement. This does not approve the TIF agreement. It does not assure anyone of anything other than, one, we would need to approve having Spear work with us. We would pay her $750 to prepare this TIF agreement. That money can be rolled into this agreement, as will bond counsels that we would engage Dorsey and Whitney, our bond counsel, to do all the TIF documentation. What they charge us is also can be rolled into the certification and paid for with these TIF dollars. Tonight, if we agree in concept, if the city council agrees in concept to continue with this process over the next month, we would engage Dorsey and Whitney, our bond counsel, to put together those documents, and we would expect probably by the September 10th council meeting, we would set a public hearing. That motion to set a public hearing, nothing would be done that night. There's a 30-day delay, so I think is what required for that. So probably on the October 8th meeting, we hold the public hearing, and at that night, you can also approve the urban renewal plan that would outline this. You would that night set a public hearing for the TIF developers agreement, and then at the next meeting, approve that TIF developers agreement, which would set us up with a good time to certify that TIF agreement to the state. So we have a little bit of wiggle room in there, very little, and it kind of depends on that 30 days for bond counsel.
Hey, Sandy, I have a question.
Mhm.
How, I was gonna ask this when she was here, but I kind of forgot. Do we know, how was like the other developments done?
So this is, my understanding is this is the first residential TIF done by the city of Atkins, but residential TIFs have been done by other small communities around here that Spear's familiar
What
with.
would be the process if we do nothing? How, I just
Yeah,
don't
no,
know,
I
like, so
appreciate-
the one that's currently going on right now over here, how would have that been done?
So, sorry, and I jumped to because the difference for me, the TIF agreement that is a rebate agreement today that you've seen it on your council bills, paying the developer, or you saw it, I think, when you certified the debt in December, certainly. The existing one, the TIF is all generated from the commercial property that's as part of Stone Ridge Fourth. And that one is the same thing. We paid for some infrastructure up front, and then now we're paying the rest of the promised amount from collected property taxes. So we track those payments through the county, to the state, and then we rebate that back to the developers twice a year. And I got that question too, and I think Maggie alluded to it a little bit. What if we don't do anything? Is that your kind of question? So if we
Like I
don't,
was gonna, because I forgot to ask, like, how were these other developments built? I knew this was different, but how are the other ones, if we did nothing?
yeah, well, and perhaps others can chime in. My understanding, on this one, my understanding is that what the developer is suggesting is that the infrastructure, the public infrastructure costs are such that if the developer paid those, that the cost would be greater than they're able to yield in the market. And so the housing wouldn't be built. So we wouldn't generate the taxes, and in 10 years, we wouldn't have, those new houses in the valuations. We wouldn't have, those residents living here, that kind of thing. It's what we always call the but-for test. So what you have to understand is, but for a TIF agreement that helps pay for that infrastructure, the development would not be built. I'm not able to speak to how other developments have been built in the community.
I guess what I hear you saying, and I think if in the past, the developer has paid the upfront costs on all of this stuff. And then they increase the value of the empty lots to recoup their cost for this development. That has happened, and it's been progressively getting up there. But now they're saying that if they have to do that, given our current construction costs, it's going to raise the value of those lots beyond what they think the public will bear, what the market will bear. So then they won't move forward with any new construction until something changes. Is that what I'm hearing?
That makes sense, yes.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the prior construction, the construction was completely borne by the
Yeah, and
by the contractor themselves during the development. I would say that during the commercial build-out, commercial district build-out, a rebate similar to this one is in effect for the commercial lots, the commercial area. That's
That helped to build the public infrastructure.
correct.
Yeah.
So it's been used before in Atkins, but for commercial, not residential. The state of Iowa does have different requirements for residential versus commercial, and that's why the LMI set aside is in place there. So it's being handled by the methods and the laws of the state of Iowa, and then of course reviewed by Maggie Berger from Spear. So that's where you get the numbers that you've seen there and the schedule that was provided.
And
Go ahead.
let me interrupt you. Sandy, just to clarify, Maggie and Spear have worked with other small communities on residential. So just because it's new to Atkins,
It is not new
it
to
is
her,
not,
and
so
it's
she's,
not new to even neighboring towns. She meant, one we talked about just today was Palo.
okay,
Yeah, so this is common, and I think to the point that Councilor Kane made, it is probably more common now because of the market and the expense of housing. The desire for small communities to continue to grow means that it's competitive for developers to build here or build elsewhere, based on communities assisting with infrastructure. The other benefit from a city standpoint is that we require developers to build specific city infrastructure. We have, very specific public infrastructure rules, the width of streets, curb and gutter, sidewalks, storm sewers, those kind of things. And those, some smaller communities won't require all of that, and then they maybe not help financially. That's another reason that cities would help. And again, these are the taxes they're paying. These aren't taxes that other people are paying today. These are taxes that will never be generated if not for the project. So, when we sometimes say, why are you giving them city tax dollars? These literally do not exist if not for the development of this project at the risk of the developer.
yeah, and they're taking
All
all
of
of
this.
this. The other question I had in our work session with Maggie was about the LMI, and that fund and how we as a council decide to structure the use of that. And she had mentioned that ECOG would kind of
It's a good way to,
guide us through that process so we can figure something out that works for Atkins.
right. And I would strongly recommend that. I don't think any smaller community
Right.
could devise and then actually program that kind of fund. those kind of funds.
And there are requirements in the law that go along with how that's distributed and controlled, so it's a good idea to have the COG involved.
Typically, state or the cities have a understanding of how they would utilize TIF funds, or they utilize TIF. And they usually have a procedure in place or a guideline of how they will go forward with TIF. We don't have that, is what I'm hearing, because we're sitting here talking about stuff that we've never done. And what the little research that I did do, it showed that a lot of cities don't utilize TIF for residential. It's more commercial and commercial only. And I told you back when I talked about the fire station that I could only find one incident where TIF funds were utilized for a fire station, and that's to expand the fire station size for the size of the city. So again, I can't say that I completely disagree with this, but with very little information, I don't, I mean, it's $750 we'd have to spend in order to get her in there and talk about it, but I think that we've got some other things that we should wrap up ourselves and determine how we're going to go forward with TIF. That's just my opinion.
I think it'd be helpful if I knew what information you were seeking.
Sure.
We had Maggie come and present, that was, because I agree. I
You
think
have guidelines is what they're.
Yeah, and we'd still have to be having this conversation if you had guidelines. When I worked for the city of Cedar Rapids, we both went 20 years without guidelines and then 10 years with guidelines. And then what we found was that the guidelines assist the developers in knowing what we're trying to attract. That's why you have guidelines. You say, we want, commercial development. We want brownfield, renovation. We want, and if you do certain things, we're gonna entertain you for TIF. It's okay not to have that, because sometimes, especially in a community like ours where we may not know what the market is, gonna yield, to have developers come to us and tell us what the market is like and what they're willing to bear. That is also not a terrible, I don't think that's very unusual. What I would say is that most small communities would be saying, we want your housing to be built in our community. That's what I'm hearing from Maggie. That's what the developers are saying, is that they are being courted by small communities like ours to try to get housing built. You saw it in your evaluations. My understanding is that this Stone Ridge 4th, I think I'm speaking right, that has the commercial TIF. We in Cedar Rapids, we didn't do residential TIF. We did all commercial TIF and commercial industrial TIF. And because of the high cost of infrastructure, what happened when there was residential that struggled to make things work was that they added commercial pieces. The example I gave was, we had a development that, because of the location of the development, they needed, turn lanes, actually needed a roundabout, to get people in and out safely based on where it was gonna be. And we were gonna make the developer pay for that big infrastructure. So they put a couple of pieces of commercial. Well, it sounds like that's what Atkins did, a few years ago, was the development needed help getting all that infrastructure in. So the city said, we want you to put commercial in over there. And you're gonna start seeing, if you've watched the planning and zoning, I think they're gonna be Thursday, you're seeing some of those developments, that commercial arterial zoned lots over there. A couple of things coming forward, but I think it's been slow. I mean, those lots have been vacant for a while. The developers are holding those lots. That's expensive for developers to do. And right now, I don't think requiring commercial is going to go anywhere, because we have a lot of commercial lots that are vacant that need filled already. And so I think that's what's precipitating the need for all residential now.
Understood. The other concern that I have is how the perception is going to be from the citizens of Atkins as far as the low to moderate income family has that LMI benefit. How will that be perceived within the community? And I just want to go out and seek out some information from some people before I would actually want to move forward with it myself.
Do you think that it would be helpful for the council to hear from a group like ECOG who's providing that service to other communities? What kinds of elementary programs?
Isn't this this LMI. If we set that up, doesn't the council then have the final say-so on that again?
What to do,
To
but
be
not
said.
whether you do it.
When to use it and when not to use it, and what kind of
Programs.
buildings and programs it would apply to, so we would have that check at that time. It's not part of this. We're only putting the money aside, but that doesn't give that money to just anybody. The council then again has to approve
Correct.
the proper use of that money.
So you have to, by state law, if you do a resolution, you have to collect it, and then you have to use it according to the law, so you can't do anything.
And as Maggie said, there's no limit on how long we bank that.
Yeah.
And this resolution then actually is only the engagement of spare and to approve a timeline. It's all of these other steps we still will vote on and have those things before we actually get moving forward on this to get the construction going, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And for that pot of money, I think we talked briefly with our meeting with Maggie, some ideas that could come out of this, like a fund of money that citizens could apply for to improve their windows.
Energy
or
efficiency
energy
on windows, yeah,
efficiency, things like that.
Correct.
Wouldn't necessarily be like a new housing development or anything. It could be
It's likely
used
not
to-
enough money to do something big.
used to improve other homes or other areas, but that's what somebody would help us work through that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
I think I want to clarify, there's no proposal in here that any of these 17 lots be dedicated to low income. That's correct, right?
No,
That is correct. And
That's correct.
actually, in order for the project to work, they are all market rate housing.
Yeah, and so the LMI requirement can, and maybe some are should, but can absolutely be used to benefit existing residents in Atkins,
Absolutely.
subject to the testing.
Yeah, means testing, yeah.
Testing's maybe not the right way to put it, but subject to eligibility.
Yes.
Yes, and it has to be, the money has to be spent within the city limits. So,
Yeah, so I mean, I just would like to put that out up front. My preference would be, if we could find a way for this LMI, for that to benefit existing residents.
I would agree with that.
So, and then the other, I had a question. So, obviously, I don't even know what it happens, to be honest with you. Like apartments, like, that's something this town lacks of, is apartments for people to, even if they want to move here because they live in the area, whatever. Is that something, I mean, obviously they have these lots for these, is that something that can be even discussed? I don't even know if that's something that's.
These 17 lots aren't zoned for that, what I think you're
Multi-family.
describing. Duplex is the largest that's allowed in the development of these 17 lots. This is existing land, you know, that you've seen. I think there's going to be a proposal on the table coming on this lot behind us that's going to include some multifamily.
It's just
'Cause
something
I
that
agree
we
with
get
you.
a lot of,
I agree with you. I
that
think
we have,
there's a
like,
missing.
and when I say this, is the number one I get is, hey, my kid lives at home and they want to move out, but I want to stay in Atkins because they, you know, but there's no apartments or nothing. That's the number one thing I hear within the community.
Yeah, I asked that when I first got here, yeah.
So I was just curious. All right.
And that's, you know, if you study zoning at all, it really, that's, you want a mix of housing in any neighborhood, and Atkins is a really big neighborhood for that very reason, so that people of different income levels can live, you know, nearby and experience the same. Because, yeah, you want to stay in the community even if you don't want a full big house.
Correct.
okay, moving on. Item number 7A is a resolution authorizing engagement letter with Spear Financial for those TIF services. Those are specialized analysis and reporting services.
I'll move to approve the resolution.
Okay, so a motion to approve.
I'll second
Okay, we have a motion and second on that resolution. Any further discussion on that?
Yeah, for this development, these 17 lots, does that terminate the development in terms of residential lots? Is that the balance of what's left to be built there?
it. Are you on the land, Wes?
That's my understanding.
Yes, that is correct. For that development, it is. We do own the 29 acres east, which would be our next move after the 17.
So Trevor, yes, the answer
Yeah,
is that the Stone Ridge development would be complete at that point.
And so I hear Dave's comment on process and policy, and agree. Directionally, I do, because I think that applies to a lot of other things. We still need to have goal setting sessions. We need to. A lot of people talk about commercial. Drawing in, increasing the commercial tax base, would be the wonky government way to say it, but bringing more businesses to town, creating a little bit more economic traffic for the city. And I don't feel like we've got really a solid vision on that. I would put that in the same bucket of not having, policy for TIF or a set of guidelines for TIF to your point, Sandy, signal to developers, this is what the city is willing to get behind or to support. Now that said, when I think about this particular development, if there's 17 lots to go, and if I understand the developer's position correctly, it's that this rebate will basically allow them, provide the cover for them to put in the necessary infrastructure and to offer the lots at an aggressive price that would make them essentially build out faster. Is that a fair interpretation
Yes, correct.
of the developer's position?
He says yes.
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna ask this question earlier.
And so,
Sorry.
yeah.
Trevor, can I ask a question real quick?
You
to
can
Wes
go.
Wise? What
Yeah,
kind,
yeah, go ahead.
what kind of price, obviously, I understand how aggressive to sell the lots. What kind of price difference do you think could happen if we didn't do this for the plot of land? Would it be 5%, 10%, 20%? You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, for example, right now, so the addition, we're just finishing, the lots were 52 to 62,000.
Okay.
Without any tip money on the next development, they would probably be 70 to 80,000, which we just won't do out here in Atkins. We think that's out of market.
And then if we do this, we keep it.
Keep it closer to that 50 to 60, and we'll be back down to where we were.
Right, because I mean, if I just kind of divide the TIF rebate by the number of lots, you can get to, maybe you can back into what a rough price would be. I'm inclined to support, and my thinking is that it finishes off the development. I'll take David at his word and his sense of the market. I think we do have them to thank for taking the risk on the commercial lots that are in place over there and for bringing the Dollar General in. I know for a lot of people that's been, a nice thing to have in the town. Certainly from a tax revenue standpoint, we've all talked recently that, substantial increase to the commercial tax base, which is a benefit to the town. So I'm inclined to support and help that team over there, that group over there, get this finished off. But I would say, I don't want to imply that, I would support the next residential TIF idea that comes across. Before we did that, I would like to see us have a better sense of what our vision is for the future of the town as a council.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to approve the resolution authorizing the letter with Spear Financial. So this time we'll have a roll call vote. Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Jim Kane,
Aye.
David Fisher,
Aye.
BJ Bell,
Aye.
and Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item number 8, discussion resolution approving an agreement with Tomorrow's Solutions for Public Sector Employers LLC. This is Teresa Roshire to provide financial consulting services, and Teresa is on the line with us presently, I believe.
I am.
All right, thank you, Teresa. In the packet, you've received that agreement.
And I included in that as well, the agreements in there from Teresa, but also in that cover sheet is the list of the scope of work that Teresa's. And the one thing I would like to say before you get questions for Teresa tonight is that when we've talked before about the services I'm providing, this, from day one, I've said that you're going to need this financial services that you had in before I came with Teresa as doing that stopgap measure from the Iowa League of Cities to help do budget. As the council seeks out a permanent administrator, clerk, staff for the office, I think this and the ESG services, the ongoing daily, big correct monthly, the ongoing financial work is really necessary in order to keep the city operating legally, doing all the things that you're required to do. We're getting ready to work with the state to release the FY23 audit. We have the same issues in FY23 that we had in FY22, and it's about reporting, it's about record keeping and those kinds of things. And these services, regardless of how successful or unsuccessful the council is in hiring permanent staff, will ensure that those services continue. They can be services that you decide to keep until you don't need them anymore, until you hire people who are qualified to do this work. I think these services are imperative for the city to ensure that ongoing financial work that you have been asking for, that you have the state auditor, making sure that we know that we're deficient in. And so having Teresa on contract through the League of Cities, she really is supposed to provide a stopgap measure. This is ensuring that she'll work with the city on a regular basis through budget amendment, through state reporting, through the annual financial report, all of the reports that are due December 1st that Maggie talked about and others that's listed here. And then when and if you don't need her anymore, you're able to negotiate that with her as well. So if you have questions for Teresa, that's why she's on the line, just to see if there's anything else you wanted to know.
Teresa, Jim Kane. As part of this, would training of new people be part of that, or would that be something that you would want to have as some sort of a separate arrangement? As we're hiring, I'm anticipating that we aren't going to get people completely and fully qualified for what we need. And you see what I'm saying?
Sure. Right, no, I would train them, help you train them, and it could be part of this contract depending on, or it could be at that point part of my league help depending on, how much time I need to spend with them. One of the questions Sandy asked me today, I believe one of the councilmen had asked, is if this was services that you could just keep getting from me through my contract with the league. And the difference of what we're talking about here is that this is certainly more very specific for your city. And when I talked with Sandy and Trisha, that's right, Trisha, right?
Yes, yeah.
saying
Trish, yeah.
the name wrong, but, was more specific that, you know, she's gonna reconcile with the bank each month. I need it to be done by a certain time so that I can guarantee that by your second council meeting each month, you guys are getting the bank correct. You're getting a budget to actual report along with the treasurer's investment report, along with the treasurer's report, and that you're actually seeing, revenue to budget numbers where we're at for the fiscal year. And one of the things I can do, depending on, you know, we'll kind of tailor it to however you guys want to do it. I'll do it one way for the first time I get them to you, and then we'll sit down or we'll talk through them, and you can say, oh, I wish you would present in this fashion or this fashion, you know, whatever the majority of the city council would like. I had in the past presented and was able to share with the council as an example for revenues that we're getting, our general fund special revenue debt, you know, where are we at with the budget throughout the year? Are we within a normal range? Are we too low? Are we way too low in the water utilities? I'm not going to come anywhere near where we need to be. Are we looking at a budget amendment? We need to be looking at a budget amendment in this particular fund area versus another fund area. And then in expenses, I went and would present to you how we're looking in a program area. So how's public safety looking? You know, we're 15% through the budget year, but guess what? They've already spent 45% of their budget. We've got a problem. Someone's got to stop. Someone needs to know what's going on. You would have more, hopefully more understandable information monthly telling you where you're at with all of your departments. That would be my goal. And then on top of that, then I would help do the required reporting that are due to the state. At this point, for the league, I'm going to various cities all around Iowa, and for the most part, trying to help them. They have just blocked off the job or done whatever, and they need somebody reconciling their bank for a couple months, or new clerks don't know how to do their transfers, or they don't do a budget amendment, or they don't even know how to do a budget for a year. And so I'm in there for a little bit, helping them with certain things. I was just at a city up in northeast Iowa. New clerk's only been there about 8 months, and 8 months that she hadn't done her end of the year transfers for FY24 because she was scared to do them. She wasn't sure how they actually were supposed to go. And so I'm helping with those kind of, I don't want to, hot button issues or something like that, and traveling all over and doing those types of things. For you guys, and I think Sandy told me it's going to be possible, if I can be connected to your system, I'm going to be able to do a lot of stuff from home, but I am anticipating at least being there once a month, if not at the most twice a month. But, you know, first couple of months when the new financial reports are presented to you guys, I'd like to be at that council meeting so that I can actually see some body language and see if you guys are liking the reports or not liking the reports, to be honest with you, and be able to get some feedback from you and hear what parts you like or don't like, or what you'd like tweaked. So that's kind of my idea and my game plan. And I've made some notes about you listen to your council meeting. If I can help Sandy in any way at all with my past city manager experience, you know, if we need an equipment replacement fund and a plan set up, you know, I've done that in a couple of cities. I did credit card policy. I have one. I mean, those types of things. I'll be happy to help out in any way that I can as part of my agreement with you guys. So that's my vision. If you have a different vision, I would sure like to hear what that would be.
Any other questions for?
I guess my thing was, Teresa, I don't have a vision. I was just looking for your ideas and the cleanest way you thought, because I do see this as two completely separate jobs, tasks, so to speak. One of them is handling our day-to-day stuff and getting things squared away. And given the lack of staffing, I see this training as an issue, and I just wanted to kind of get my head wrapped around and see my thinking on moving forward, whether you thought that would be just a part of what this contract is, or if you'd like to evaluate the people that we hire and do something kind of on a separate basis there.
All right, and depending on where you're at, when it comes time to training those people, there's lots of trainings available for clerks. You're gonna, obviously that will cost some money, but we have some pretty good training for clerks or accountants or whatever it is you guys are gonna be looking for. So hopefully at that time I can just provide you with some of my ideas, and you can decide if that seems to work for you or not work for you. But I certainly I don't honestly want to come into a town and help them do a whole lot of work and get on the right path and then be done and walk away and have to fall on the face again. That's not what I want.
Great, thank you, I appreciate it.
Hey, Teresa and Sandy, and I suppose other members of the council. I guess mainly you, Teresa, at first, would you be comfortable if we adjusted the agreement to put some sort of cap, expenditure cap that would require kind of a revisit or a relook by the council?
Sure. Sandy did ask me that, and I was trying to give her a number. I didn't want to make too low, or I didn't want to overestimate. So, I was kind of estimating the 10 hours a month and at the most 2 trips there, and I think we came up with about 24 or 25,000. I can't remember, Sandy, what number I gave you, but if you guys want to make it less and we revisit it earlier, or if we get close to it, whatever number. Is this Trevor? I still think you guys, I can't tell voices or not.
No worries. Yes, this is Trevor.
Okay, so whatever you guys feel comfortable with, I'm fine with that. We can revisit, talk about it. If you guys aren't getting what you want from me, then there's different arrangements or something. I don't want you guys spending your money on something you're not wanting or not getting, so.
Well, yeah, certainly, and I noticed in the agreement is, there's no, it's cancelable or, 30 days notice by either party, so, we're not locked into an ongoing relationship if we don't want it on either side. And I thought that would be prudent. 25 is reasonable to me. It's within the range of kind of the hours contemplated in the agreement.
Okay.
And I mean, it compares, if I just think for what's included in the scope and compare 25 to, a full-time work, it seems reasonable to me. Anybody else have any other thoughts? I just like to see that cash. So if it did get extended, we'd be able to come back to it.
Hey, Teresa?
Sure.
So my question is, so 10 hours is a realistic to do A through G, all those things monthly and ongoing and stuff like that? Because my other question is going to be is whoever we hire, either, a clerk or a administrator, I'm just gonna ask, so what you're saying is realistically, is that how long it should take said person to do this type of work? Based off your experience? I'm gonna ask that for bluntly.
Yeah, no, I know what you're trying to ask.
Because if you're looking for an experienced person, I mean, maybe not, you know what I'm asking.
Right.
You know what I'm asking. You know, go with that.
Right, and that, that's why I think I said 10 to 20 hours there, honestly depends on the time of the year. And, my life is always much busier between, it starts at about October through February. When we start budget and I start working on every one of those reports that have to be done December 1st. And then February, when we've done the budget, then, we might have a budget amendment that comes after that. And then we've got kind of a few months, and then we've got the end of the year. And, so it is cyclical. So, I didn't want to say a certain amount per month because it's been even different when I've been working with the league. There's some months that were calm and normal, and then it just was way crazy at the time. So, you also have to realize, I mean, I've been doing it for 44 years, so.
Well, I get that, and then obviously, the other thing I'm assuming that would make your job easier is if the council's kind of on the same page and know what's going on. So that
right.
we can
Absolutely.
make quicker decisions, so that you can plug in the information quicker. I know it's probably a dumb
Right.
question, but I'm assuming that helps you, or would
You know,
help.
if you don't have to go to 6 budget council meetings, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
understand.
absolutely.
Okay, all right.
And it's gonna help that your accountant does all the day-to-day stuff and balances with the bank for me, and she hands me a set of books that's balance.
Okay.
And then I'll just go to Tom on my reports and be good to go. That's the hope.
Teresa, I just want to, this is Dave.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dave.
I just want to thank you for everything that you've done with us or for us so far. I appreciate everything. The other thing is, I want the council to understand that this if we're going to bring Teresa on board, which I do support, that this changes things in my perspective, on the number of associates that we're going to hire for the city and how we do that.
Actually, now that Dave brings that up, I actually kind of agree with that. So I know that's a discussion later, but
We still need a motion on her agreement, and then you can move on with it.
I'll make a motion to approve her.
Now, would you want that, some discussion was prior to a limit?
Yeah, what was that? Trevor, what were you, like,
25,000.
25,000? And then like, I saw the dates,
Annual basis?
like, dates in there. So, Teresa, what do you think is a realistic? So we've got September, are we thinking 6 months? So that you're here the entire period?
No, this is
Or-
an ongoing contract. It's not-
Ongoing, that we don't want to do, okay, all right. I just
And
saw
then
those dates.
it's terminable at 30 days notice.
Okay, no, I saw those other dates and I didn't know if we want to have an initial, but I got it. So,
Oh,
Yeah, I
I see.
think 25,000.
That's what I'm talking about.
Everybody's
You saw
okay with
that, was in there. I didn't know if we wanted to have an
I
initial.
thought it was just like the beginning. like-
No, it's in there, so I like an initial, like so many months, and then go on to month to month, or if we're just gonna go month to month right from the start.
Oh, I see.
Do you see what I was saying? It was,
I think by definition, it's month to month with a 30-day notice.
okay, I just saw
Yeah, I
that.
see what you're saying.
So,
So, yeah.
all right, sounds good.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve
I'm sorry.
with the,
Wait a second, I'll second.
okay. So a motion and a second, and again, that's to clarify that motion with the $25,000 cap per on an annual basis. And start date is immediate. Would you all say?
That's my plan.
Yes.
Okay, start immediate. Okay. 25K cap per year. Okay, any further discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote of Samantha Peterson.
Aye.
Jim Kane,
Aye.
David Fisher,
Aye.
E.J. Bell,
Aye.
and Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Teresa.
Well, thank you. Look forward to working with all of you.
Thanks, Teresa.
And, I will probably see you soon. Okay,
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
all right, thanks. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Then item number 9, discussion resolution approving agreement with ESG Professional Accountants to provide payroll services. In the packet was a list of services, payroll quote, and Sandy, would you like to give us some background on anything there?
Sure, this is one that, again, has come up from council members to me, requesting that we explore outsourcing payroll, again, to free up existing staff and to be able to provide more professional payroll services. To my knowledge, that, there wasn't, payroll training and things like that provided to staff in the past. And so I think outsourcing payroll makes a lot of sense. I recommended ESG because they're already involved in our systems. We do payroll in the same system as we do our general ledger accounting. They've been helping us with a couple of other things that I've mentioned to you in the past. It has a little bit to do with payroll and benefits. So Trish Cornwell has certainly gotten a little bit of exposure to our payroll, and so that's what allowed her to give us this quotation that includes benefit support. One of the things we needed to professionalize was the providing of our benefits, ensuring that we're both paying the right amounts for benefits for our employees, but also getting from our employees the right premiums paid through their payroll, things like that. And so I think with this, that would help us. It does help with, in the office, freeing up time for the many other things that still are outstanding to get done. So any questions? That's all I have.
I was one of them that asked Sandy to proceed with looking at this. I don't know if this is the right dollar amount or not. If this is typical for the payroll services, I have no idea. And eventually I think you'd want to go out on a yearly basis after we got established and start to bid that type of thing out to somebody. That way you can make sure that you keep everybody honest and doing that aspect of it. But I think it's something we should do going forward. And again, this lends to the same discussion that I said earlier when talking to Teresa. If we're outsourcing these types of things, we should be taking a darn hard look at how we're going to staff the city here. So that's where I stand.
I would mention, just like I did with Teresa's, well, we can talk about it. Let's just talk about it with the next contract. My comment is, I think you can do it either way. You can make a decision, and you don't even have to make it now, of whether you keep these services or whether you bring them back in-house and want them done.
The only question I have is I've been extremely strong advocate. You guys all know this for many years. The only question I have is, like today's point is, I've worked with stuff, working in a bank like ADP, the payrolls, there's different ones out there that like are just massive companies that literally do everything from city to regular, employers or whatever. Obviously, we've got like a time crunch kind of thing. Is that something that, did you even look to see what kind of prices are I understand your point. I get it. Believe me, I get it. Like they're there just so that.
I have the same question of whether this is competitive. And so I paused a little bit. One is, this is a professional services contract, so it's not required that we bid it. Like the auditor has told us we have to bid certain things, right?
Correct.
But I agree with both of your comments that eventually this should be bid. Bidding takes time, it takes.
Correct, and I see the urgency on this.
And what I liked about ESG for this short term, for now, is that they are already touching our systems. We already.
I agree with that.
I agree. I don't have to do the stuff, but should you look at others in the future? And, absolutely. But I did ask.
I just know this is an extremely competitive market. Like, some will come in and.
I knew I didn't have time. I didn't want to take the time at library to do today is in that, you have to do a lot of work then to compare those services. And we don't have a good enough system to even compare at this point.
Well, I just know from in my world is like, if you call them up, they will come to you and they will present, they will do all the work. Because they want your business, they want the
Except that
business.
in the public sector, we're supposed to make it equal.
Correct.
So
That's what
we
I'm
struggle
saying.
with that, yeah, no, I agree.
So they're not your typical business where, like.
Yeah, they're selling, right?
They're selling, so they want to come in and be aggressive on showing what they have
Sure.
and be competitive. So that's.
No, that's a good point.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay,
One second.
okay, motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion?
I'll just jump in. I think this makes a lot of sense for several reasons, so I support it. I also support though that I don't want to do it too soon. I think we need to get this, built out, staffing built out, and get to what maybe would be called steady state. But absolutely, I think that we should keep a sharp pencil on this, and we should have RFPs out on a regular cadence, whatever makes sense and seems prudent to be fair, to the folks providing service, but also on behalf of the residents of the town that we're getting, best service and best price. But I think the position we're in, I can, at least in my head, justify acting quickly on a provider that's already demonstrated value. And that's on the other side of what we're doing here with the accounting part.
And it also relieves a little bit of the staffing side, so they don't have to worry about payroll. It's taking care of this so that we can get that staffing part figured out. So.
All right.
Well, and yeah, to me, that's a risk management piece there as well, because there is risk of getting this wrong, keeping it in the house. And I think we've got, situations we're working through where we didn't. So yeah, I support it.
Any further discussion? Okay, moving on to the roll call vote then. Samantha Peterson.
Aye.
Jim Kane.
Aye.
David Fisher. EJ Bell.
Aye.
And Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 10, discussion regarding proposal received for executive search services. Discussion, and Sandy, you want to
Yeah,
take us up on that?
absolutely, thank you. So you'll note on the council agenda, I didn't include action on this item simply because I don't have a recommendation for you. And I needed to kind of hear what you're thinking. I lost my finger. So you've seen, and I think I failed to put the RFP in the original packet, but if you went back to the link that I directed you to, and what's live on the website now is both the RFP that I wrote and put out. So you can see what we asked for, and then we got 2 proposals back, one from what's called MRD now, it's the old GovHR. It's been a couple of, they've bought up a couple of companies that do public sector consulting, and then a local Express Professionals proposal that was received as well. We got a couple of declines from folks that we reached out to. The one I would like to clarify, I guess, was Midwest Consulting, that I asked after the fact if council member had asked me if Elizabeth Hansen was interested. I know you met with her before I was here, and her comment was that her schedule is full, probably until later this fall. The reason I mentioned that, and I think the reason I was asked to pursue her interest, was because it was quite a bit less expensive than either of the 2 proposals in front of you. And just to kind of clarify explain the the two proposals as I see them, and, you can read them and have your, as good of comments as I do. They're pretty competitively priced in a way. MRG is $25,000 each. So city administrator, city clerk, two positions, $50,000. The other one is 20% of the first annual salary of the person. So, they end up being, a $90,000 city administrator, is 20% of that, 18,000. So, so I don't think they're hugely different. They are different, certainly, but very much different than what you saw from Elizabeth Hansen. Now, both of these come with a guarantee of sorts, the way they word them. The things I was always looking at when I did these kind of proposals, hiring directors is what I usually hired. And that was MRG offers a year, so you hire a person, they don't last a year, then they will do the search again for you for that position, plus expenses, so there's, some caveats in there, but generally they want, to make sure that you have a person that's going to stay a year in the position. There's caveats, there's conditions, I think on that, but on the express one, it was 90 days. So, if somebody gets in here, doesn't stay, right away, it's not working, that kind of thing, you at least have that. And I think it's the same thing they do, the search over for you. So, and the other reason I didn't put action on tonight's was I was hoping that you would just give me direction for the next step that you want me to pursue. And because I assume that you probably want to talk to either one of these. I thought maybe you'd say, we want to interview one or both of the firms, or something else that I have not contemplated. The other comment was that I think is a great one for discussion tonight, based on the contracts that you just approved, is that does give you some breathing room to get some of that financial stuff. I will tell you again, I'll go back to my list of projects that people keep wanting to add to, but not take away from, is there's a lot of outstanding work. And as I told you, a month or so ago, I'm desiring to wean out here. I'm retired. I would just assume not work here full time. I'm not. You can see from my billing, I am trying to at least take a day a week off, and I'm not working, every day, all day, every day. So, and that's my desire, is to not be here. So the financials makes me breathe easier, knowing that Teresa and ESG taking over some of those. I'm working on hopefully filling the utility billing clerk, so a second clerk in the office that answers phones and does all this work, this paperwork that's just simply has not been done for a while. There's a lot of back work that needs done to get you up to where a person can come in and kind of function effectively in the position. It certainly means that you can choose clerk or administrator to hire. I know you had always talked about the administrator, and I was the one that added clerk because you just did not have the financial treasurer stuff getting done. So whether you want to keep the ESG and Teresa's contracts longer term means that you can relieve some of that clerk pressure. It's not the entire clerk's job description. You can go to the state code. We don't have a job description, I don't think, for the clerk. But the state code tells you what the clerk is supposed to do. And, those contracts do a lot of that work, but, there's certainly office work. The clerk is responsible for all council correspondence as well. Things like that. There's some other stuff in there. All the liquor license, all that stuff is supposed to be done by a clerk. Now, you've always had an administrator / clerk, the one you had, so you could certainly, do that as well. So I think it's completely up to the council what your desire is. And I know I've gotten some council members suggesting that hiring the two at once doesn't make sense anyway, because you might want to do them in an order so that there's some kind of seniority or pecking order or that kind of thing, which probably makes sense as well. So I think it's probably time for the council to decide how you want to select your permanent administrator or clerk or both.
So would you suggest deciding on the firm first and
then having them give some advice. I don't know, MRG is gonna have a lot, my impression, I've worked with them, I don't know if I've worked with Michelle, I've worked with Heidi Voorhees before. She's very knowledgeable, she's from the Chicagoland area. They're all people who've worked in city government in the past, typically that's where those people come from. They would be able to I've talked to that guy a little bit, he's not worked in the industry. So I don't know that firm would be able to give you much advice about it. And I think they're gonna wanna know what you want. The contract, the RFP absolutely asks for the chosen firm to work with you as an elected body to write a job description, set a salary, determine what you want as a group. Because the one thing I've heard from the firms is it's going to be hard to hire somebody who's going to take a new job, put their lives at risk, if they are not feeling support from the entire council. I think it's going to be really important, and that's why the firm needs to come in and say, what are you looking for? And we talked about this before. Are you looking for somebody that's going to make sure the office runs well? Because that's what you need. But what do you really want? Somebody who's going to write a TIF, a plan for TIF or desire, work with you guys to get all those policies in place, that the council needs goal setting, all of those kinds of things. Those aren't the same skill sets. And so hopefully somebody's going to be well-rounded and have some of both, but you're going to hire either, somebody who was a clerk or somebody who might have been, some of the small city administrators I've met were economic development people. They came in from the private sector, which meant they started as economic development people for cities, and then they go, oh, cool stuff, I can become the administrator, and I can name a couple of those. Great way. And that's what a lot of small cities need, is somebody who has some economic development background. That isn't necessarily a person who understands the clerk, finance, treasurer side of things. So I think you're going to need somebody to guide you through because then those firms are going to go out and find somebody who wants the challenge of Atkins, who wants to do the things you want to do, who is going to serve a community, maybe has some experience with communities this size, who had the challenges the cities had, those kinds of things. They know, that once they know what you want, they know what they're out there looking for. And that's why you're hiring a recruiter, is you're not just putting an ad in the paper, you're literally having somebody go out there and talk to people, set the city up, and try to find someone who matches your requests, your requirements.
Sandy?
Yeah.
I just what do you think about staffing at City Hall, given the agreements we just entered into? If I'm following the conversation so far and your recommendations over time, initially it was 2 billing clerks, a clerk and an administrator, a city clerk and administrator. So I think a total of 4 is what you recommended for City Hall. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so with these agreements in place, which really seems to kind of target a lot of clerk type duties, what we're not getting at with these agreements, I think, is improving communication, in the town, better coverage of town events, training and department events for things in the town, a better presence on social media, maybe more forward thinking and looking, and conventions and other things for economic development. A lot of things maybe you bucket under outreach. With that in mind, if we think about 3, would you recommend an administrator and 2 billing clerks, or an administrator, a clerk, and 1 billing clerk, or a clerk or a city clerk and 2 billing clerks? Like, how would you update that recommendation with these agreements in place?
Well, one is, what I was not contemplating with the agreements that you passed tonight is that they were permanent. So my charge was to fill gaps, and now clearly the people you've contracted with, these people, and the agreements could be ongoing. So absolutely, if you're comfortable with them, if the rates are right, you're certainly buying a ton of experience with those people, and you don't have to pay for the experience or the training or the upkeep of their education. So there's a huge benefit to hiring contractors. So if that's the council's desire, is to not just, I mean, really, when I started thinking about the agreements that you have approved tonight, I was thinking get you through the next 6 to 12 months. That's what I was trying to make sure, that you could get through FY25, hoping that in a year, you've gotten some steady state, as you said. So, but in the interim, I think that they are taking care of the heavy lifting that a clerk does. And the things you mentioned and the things I just mentioned, like employee handbook and council procedures and goal setting and, all the things those kind of things, that's administrator. And so I think right now, and I don't think either one of those replace the two clerks you need in the office in order to cover the office. Because right now you're using me as a stopgap to cover the office, and that is a really expensive way to cover the office. I'm working on utility billing clerk, and I'm hoping that I will have a hire for that shortly. But that's the $20 an hour person, that's different, and you probably will need to train that person up on city. We're not trying to find a city person. That's, not what you need. But require training for that person. But it's customer service is what you're doing. We need to provide customer service to our utility billing customers and residents. So I think those two frontline at the counter, answer the phone, tell me what my water bill cost, what do I owe you? Because I think those two are absolutely critical to providing good service out of the office. ESG and Teresa's contract allow you get to stay kind of legal with what the clerk stuff provides, and then I'd hire an administrator. And then once you have an administrator in here, you really could look at it and say, as long as those other contracts are in place, it's not urgent to hire the clerk, but at some point you might want to swap it out and bring those services back in-house, hire your own person, and expand, and then you have, those extra hours to do all of the work that, there's always going to be more stuff to do as the city continues to grow, and that you might want done, but you get a little more flexibility. You don't have to hire a certified clerk then, because you've already bought those through consulting services.
Yeah, that's been my vision.
Yeah.
So I think I've expressed that like months ago.
Yep.
So it does look like the executive search services could come along in future meetings with the council, and that executive search could iron out.
So
The
you made
details
a
of
comment about, oh my gosh, I forget her name. Yeah, Elizabeth. You said fall. When you say fall, what are we talking about? Like, are we talking like September fall, or are we talking like November fall, which should be available?
Yeah.
I'm just saying this.
She was telling me that in August. I felt it was October, November.
Okay. So I was looking at $10,000 compared to $25,000.
And it's not just the cost either. I've talked to Sandy about this, because Midwest Consulting was a lot less expensive than these two, and I'm not opposed to these two proposals, and make that clear, but she brought a lot of experience and professionalism, and when I talked to all of her references too, she just did a really good job. So it wasn't just the cost that.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, with Elizabeth.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I was surprised when you didn't hire her in February before I met you all. Mostly because she's one of two firms in the state of Iowa who does this work. Like, so she knows where people are moving, where they're at. She knows, if I was looking for work, I'd call her and tell her, hey, I'm looking for work. If I was looking to move up, if I needed to move to Central Iowa, I'd call her and tell her, hey, I'm looking to move to Central Iowa, and she, have me a couple of interviews, within the week. So, and I've heard those stories from other small city administrators. So that's the difference. But I think the two you have, these are professionals, both of them. The benefit of Express is they're right here. I haven't met them at all, so I don't, I've emailed back and forth with the proposer, very responsive, very inquisitive, interested in our work, very eager, so, great. He's down the street, I mean, he's in Cedar Rapids, it's, I'm sure they, seem to, hire professionals, that kind of stuff, so I wouldn't hesitate to bring them in and talk to them, and, you can see that his proposal isn't, very geared to us, but, that's the nature of the business. MRG, they're just one of the top people doing this work across the country. I don't know if they know anybody local, I have no idea what they know about Iowa or small cities, or, I don't know that. They're very in tune with cities, but are they in tune with corridor cities? I don't know.
I would like to meet with them both, and just get a feel for how they might, kind of like what we did with Elizabeth, before. This MGT, the GovHR, or GovTemps, if you guys remember, we talked with them, when we were going through the interim administrator search process. So I have a little bit of experience with them, not much, and definitely not on the permanent hire side, but I think it would be beneficial to meet with them, whether it's in person if they're able, or I don't know where they're located, if it would have to be a Zoom
I'm
situation.
guessing it would be remote. I'd certainly have flown in Cedar Rapids to do stuff, but once COVID hit, we did everything by Zoom, this part of the process.
The search that we've got going, that's going to be ongoing. Have you got a feeling, do you really think there's much else out there? I mean, we've got only half of the people we're really interested in. I'm kind of concerned this is unique, and waiting any longer, I don't know, would we get any more firms or stuff?
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't hear back. I sent to all the ones I know, and I, kind of Googled all the Cedar Rapids people that do executive searches and sent to those, to make sure they knew about our RFP. Actually, Trish from ESG helped me get the word out from her contacts,
Sure.
because she works in this world as well. But this is what we got.
We aren't shutting anything down, meeting with these people, though, that ad and stuff that we've got out there can be ongoing during the process of trying to decide if we want one of these.
I think we need to choose one and go. Because to your point, you mentioned the other day, it's gonna take weeks.
Yeah.
Mostly because they're working around your schedule, and then even after you go through the process, any administrator's gonna have to give notice,
Right.
to take their job. They'll give notice of whatever job they have today.
Can I ask a question?
You're still months out.
So you acknowledge that you said you kind of want to wean yourself out. Have you thought about like a date to us to say, hey guys, because that gives us some kind of like.
What I committed to was.
I'm sorry, I just had to ask.
No, it's a fair question, and I would say the same. I don't have because my if you hired somebody today, I'd go home and stay there. I don't have, my contract is, tell us, it's not 30 days, it's literally, I say I'm going, you tell me I'm no longer needed, and my contract ends. That's how it's worded. I was, supposed to go July 1, that was the first agreement. Now we're month to month, whatever that means, because again, it's, if either of us decide. I don't want to leave the city out in the cold. This is why I'm trying to set you up so that even if something happened and I couldn't come back, you at least have your financials getting done. So no, I don't have a.
So I've got one thing to add here. When I look at something and I'm trying to make a decision, what I do is I try to weigh both sides and determine what I want to do. I reached out to the Palmer Group. And the reason I reached out to the Palmer Group is because their executive search in the Cedar Rapids area. The Cedar Rapids area yields us all the people within Iowa and the local area. And they're a search group that does specifically for accounting and things of that nature. So therefore, that's why I reached out to them. They don't want to move forward with it. So my recommendation would be express employment because they're in Cedar Rapids. But the other biggest thing that I see is the benefit here is MGT has zero skin in the game when it comes down to supplying us candidates. In other words, if they don't supply us candidates, we're still out $25,000. They'll probably supply us candidates, that's not the point. But typically, you want somebody to have skin in the game. That was the other reason why I reached out to Palmer Group, because I had heard that that's how they had actually done things. So therefore, with the fee of 20% for the first year of salary, it could be significantly more depending on what we do and how we do it. But needless to say, you've got a search group, a professional search group in Cedar Rapids that could be reaching out and have a lot of contacts throughout and it doesn't have to be somebody specifically for city government.
I just want to clarify one though, is MGT for that 25,000 absolutely requires you to hire someone and keep them in place for 12 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
they have
actually
skin in the game, and that they're on the hook until the position is filled for a year.
If we don't hire somebody, they
But
don't.
we
get
gotta pay them the
their
25,000 up front, is what I'm saying.
No. If
Yeah.
we don't hire somebody, they don't get paid.
They get paid in milestones. No, they do. They do. It's not, and I assume we had to pay Express on a contract, on a milestone basis too, but maybe not. Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure that you know that you don't pay 25,000 and then you're sitting there with no administrator at the end of that contract, because that's not the case.
It looks like to me, and I could be reading this wrong, that with Express, there's a 90-day candidate backfill guarantee, and with MGT or GovHR, it's a 12-month guarantee and then to provide one additional search for replacement if they don't make it a year. So am I reading this correctly that GovHR actually has more skin in the game than Express? That's how I understand it.
Not really, because you're paying them that 25,000 up front, no matter what, ultimately. And it might be over the first month, the second month, and then when they hire, but still you're going to pay that $25,000. The 20% is the salary. The 90 days, if you can't vet them out within a 90-day, you already got a problem trying to get rid of them after that.
Wouldn't we owe Express 20% of the salary that was offered to the candidate though? I mean, we owe them, so let's say for easy math,
It's typically
$100,000,
the
just
way
easy math, that would be
things-
$20,000, and the candidate would
Express
stay.
employment is not.
And they only have to stay for 90 days, and we could be, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not arguing, I think it's great that they have, both companies have skin in the game, but I'm reading it as that GovHR actually has more skin in the game than Express. Like, Sandy,
Yeah,
is that?
yeah, that's how you would have a relationship with MGT until you hire somebody March 1st. They have to stay until the next March 1st, or you get MGT back. And
What you'll have to do is you'll have to hire them again to get you another person in here.
No, that's not what it says.
But it won't cost you the 25,000 again.
But
Well,
with
no,
Express,
the
we owe
contract.
20%, and they only have
Well-
to stay there's only a 90-day
The contract, I
guarantee
just,
versus a 12-month guarantee.
yeah, you can't, I mean, it's in the contract, it's in
That's
the proposal.
just, I mean, I'm sure if you ask them to do 12 months, you could probably get that out of expressive employment too.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I think that would be great.
Actually, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Hold
that's a
on, wait, that's a good point. That's something that, like,
Let's try to get the same.
no, I
The
didn't even think, no, I get what I get.
Palmer Group wanted 35,
I get what you're saying.
Palmer Group wanted 35%, and they were gonna do a year, within a year. If they didn't, but you had to backfill through them again.
No, to that MGT, you're still using them. They're not gonna pay you to go to someone else. So, yeah, and I would think any.
In order to get your $25,000 back, or you're gonna use them to get the next employee.
You'll never get your money back.
Right.
It's just that you're gonna get another candidate in place. Yeah.
I just, the only part that I struggle, I see where you both are coming from, you know, but as an employee, it doesn't matter who we hire, you know, 90 days is like the honeymoon phase. I mean, really, you're not getting to know the job until 6-9 months a year. So I get what he's saying, and and I get what they're saying. So it's like, you know, so I do like what Dave just said about like maybe going back to them like, hey,
And if you bring
this person has a year.
I can let them know that you're.
Why can't we match that? You know, and I like the idea of local, but I also like, you know,
Yeah, NGT, you pay, you pay 40% up on contract, to your point, so they can recruit 40% once the candidates are presented, and then the 20% is paid at the end. So it's 80% basically up front and 20.
Well,
What about Express? I mean, they're not gonna start this for nothing and
It
go
doesn't,
through until the end.
their proposal doesn't outline the
Yeah.
payment schedule.
That's something maybe we need to clarify with them too, how they get this 20%.
The conversation that I had with the Palmer Group, they didn't need anything up front. They had all of it.
So I think
why
it'd
they
be-
want to.
So we need to kind of coalesce this around.
I'd still like to meet with both of
Direction.
them. I think it's valuable to get a feel for the person that we're working with and maybe asking questions like what you're talking about, negotiating a 12-month candidate guarantee.
Express Employment's got a whole bunch of people you can work with. They'll have specific people that you can pick from if you don't like what they
I think
they
that'd be
have.
great, but I think it'd also just be worth it to hear from the other option. What do you-
No, I think we ought to interview or review both of them and see what they say in some sort of, rather than just go off and make a decision without talking to them.
Trevor, do you have any comments on that? Just trying to move the meeting along here.
Yeah, I mean, if schedules align for yet in August, I mean, either the next meeting in August or the first meeting in September would, you know, would the council support both, you know, receiving basically conducting interviews with both options? I think that makes a lot of sense. And just especially when I look at these proposals, I think everybody's raising good points. I just, when I look at both these proposals, one seems far more structured is the word. I think that's a fair word to describe it, and it makes me wonder how structured the process is for one of them versus the other.
I was just going to say that the firms that you use that are local actually are a benefit to you. You can look at different people, you're going to get different other than if it's only going to be city administrative if you do the one person. People.
I mean, we did do local and got Sandy.
That was. You got both.
Look at that. Good job.
So I think that, yeah, I would agree with that there's a benefit to going with a local firm. And I would give that preference, certainly. I guess for me, it's maybe not decisive. And I'd like to ask, you know, I'd like to give MDT maybe the chance to answer that question and be like, well, how are you going to understand Atkins? You know, and how are you going to reach into the labor market in Iowa? What should give us give us an indication of what your network is. You know, how many job candidates or seekers do you have in your pipeline from Iowa?
In small cities.
You know, I think it's fair to consider both is all, but, I mean, if somebody has a strong.
Well, why couldn't we,
tonight,
why couldn't we, even have both of them give us a date, and we get dates on the calendar, and we can do a special session. It doesn't have to be during an actual meeting.
I was hoping some flexibility. Let me check with both and see how quickly we can get them in, knowing that that might be an option.
Yeah,
Would it be
You know,
possible
assuming
at
I
the
don't have
same
anything
time?
else
I
booked,
question
I
whether
just
we
work
want
that.
to do both of them the same day like that. I don't know how
You
they
can do
would.
them back to back.
I
would do it back to back,
Same
'cause-
day,
Just get it over, have back to back. we can-
But let me see what their availability is. Who knows? Without asking them. But I will be happy to set that up.
Okay.
I don't want to.
And the idea about checking on the contract for the 1 year, 12 months.
Yeah, I'll mention that to them so they can be prepared to respond to that. I think that's a great.
If possible.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on to reports, the mayor's report, attended the Benton County Conservation Commission meeting and REAP meetings at the county level, and Watermelon Days. City staff survived that. It was a busy time and a lot of activity. Turned out to be great weather. Hopefully it was a great event for everybody. Looking forward to the one next year. And getting ready for some of the projects coming up, the sewer main replacement, and continuing with the tree RFP, getting some information out there from historical information for Sandy and Jared on that. So, Sandy, your report then?
Yeah, I have nothing to add.
Or the fire department report, city council member reports?
I do have a quick question on the fire. So, I mean, I don't know to ask, Dan, I think this is great. The only thing I would ask is, it might, to help us, is like, he's got like dispatched calls for the date period, is maybe if he's got a statistic from last year at this time.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Just to give us an idea to say, hey, are we tracking the same, higher, lower?
Yeah.
You know, I
I'm sure
mean,
you'd be happy to do that.
because I don't know, to me, 115 call, that's a lot. But at the same time, is that a lot compared to last year, or is that, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
It just gives us an idea.
Yeah, gives you a trend. Kind
Yeah,
of.
because it's not something that I have a report month, you know, all the time on this. That's, otherwise, I think this is great.
And the intent, and Chief Railsburg was happy to provide this, and he'll be providing it quarterly going forward, and we decided just to throw in extra.
Yeah, if he can, if he's got that number, I'm sure he's got it.
Oh,
And what is that, an extra?
Sandy, I don't have that on the top of my head, but he did give us that on one of the meetings for the fire station. He went back and he actually updated us on how it's been going over like 5 years.
There's a bar chart that I've seen.
Yeah, he did give us that information. It is, we are really running high. It's been going, approaching 200 a year, but we haven't got that. We're just barely over halfway, and we're over 115 now, so.
Yeah,
I know we were under 200 last year, but we were getting.
I was thinking of the 200 that I knew that I'd seen on that bar chart,
He
and
was saying
thinking,
we
if
were
this is
pushing.
July, I mean, you're.
That's why I wanted to know where we were tracking.
But I'll tell him to kind of beef that up to show trend over.
That, like I said, that's
Just so
already
he's doing it.
available. We just have to pull the slide up that they did.
I'm sure to him, it's an extra, literally an extra minute.
What if you, I was also interested in EMS versus.
Yeah, that's a good one.
EMS, So,
So, and he's gonna know that information right away.
I think
And it just
It's
gives us.
probably double.
The other thing that he's got that he don't have here, but he did do last year for us, was the average number of firemen or responders on each call. And last year it averaged 8. So we were running 8 people on each call, and I know a lot of them were averaging 2 or 3, but our average on the total number of calls last year was 8.
Future agenda item discussion?
I think Dennis brought up, been quite a few meetings ago, you wanted us to revisit the procedure for golf carts, for the side-by-sides that are running around town. Every town's got a new procedure because they changed the procedure, and I'm not speaking for you, Dennis, but, or yeah, I'm kind of, but I think you said that the side-by-sides, they now adapted new procedures for the county. So we should update our procedures to accommodate the side-by-sides within the golf cart policy as well.
Right, because the state adopted a new side-by-side for,
ATV, I guess it's called.
yeah, UTV policy.
UTV or ATV.
And I think the city should consider coinciding with that or looking at whether, they're okay with where they are, or do you add or subtract something? I still see people drive around after sunset in a golf cart, which they're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
Dang, then there'd probably be about 50.
And to be perfectly honest with you, I've seen that some cities require that the turn signals be on, the lights be on, and they're doing it after dark as well. So again, there's restrictions on streets and so on and so forth, and I don't know what we've got.
The state's pretty clear on their law.
I'm happy to add that to the project.
I mean, 35 mile an hour is the maximum speed limit.
And I would also ask for a item to be on the agenda to talk about contracts and how we are going to administer contracts, whether they're short-term or long-term contracts, and if we want to get the city council involved as well. So I guess that's what I'm asking for, an agenda item as well.
What kind of contracts? I'm sorry, I didn't.
I talked to you about the contract that we went into with the golf cart for the city. It was $600 a month or whatever it was that we're renting a cart.
And I think, I'm happy to put that on the project list. That would be part of a council procedures manual. So but what comes to the council over the procurement policy, absolutely. So I'll make sure.
Okay. So this time Trevor, anything?
Just if we got some vehicles that I think the fire department's trying to get taken care of, and I think we should be able to move on that pretty quickly. As I understand, the council's got to decide to sell, but I think those could come up relatively soon.
So that's up to them.
And then just on what's that?
They need to bring those to us. They know that. They just need to find the time also to do that.
Okay. And then just on that, with the firefighter update, just congratulate. So it was kind of in this update, Dan Ramblesburg had 25 years membership in the volunteer fire department here. He's the chief, as we all know. So I just congratulations to Dan. There's a couple other members with 20 plus years as well, but Dan hit 25, and I think that's worth noting.
Absolutely.
So at this time, we can open the meeting up for public input for items not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. If you'd like to come to the podium, state your name, and discuss. Okay. Seeing none, we will announce our next regular council meeting to be held August 27th here at 6:30 p.m. here at 6 p.m. here at the City Hall Library Room, and that concludes our business for this evening. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, by voice.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.